base. It's the home of the Illuminati. We're wrapping up the negotiations section of the COP, and it's coming to the end of my time here. There's now a draft text for the Paris Rulebook. Basically, the operations manual for the Paris Agreement, which tells countries what they should do, how often, in terms of how they can report on what they're doing in their countries to combat climate change. I've been sitting in on some negotiations. I did manage to get into the room after my initial debacle being kicked out of a room. So the negotiations are extremely technical and they're really hard to follow.
To the outcome of all the given last night, but I do think that it's likely to work. I would just say that I think the language taken out of the huddle also included consider. I think there's a way in the drafting to put the word consider back into it.
I was following negotiations on the Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage. I guess you really learn how much these negotiations rely upon trust and consensus and relationship building. In the room at the micro level, they're trying to agree on text and certain paragraphs, and there are countries like Kuwait that their negotiators say, we don't want to include the IPCC report on 1.5 as an acknowledgement in this report because we're not okay with this report. They said, the negotiator said something like, men and women, developing and developed countries, all experience climate change the same, which is not true. Obviously, we know that the effects of climate change are felt more strongly by the poorest people, and that women suffer disproportionate losses due to climate change. So I spoke today on the press conference for Youngo, which is the youth constituency to the UNFCCC. I spoke about loss and damage and how we want rich countries to step up and pay for loss and damage, as well as letting in more climate refugees and migrants who are affected by climate change. Because we as developed countries have a responsibility to pay our fair share of the damage we caused by relying on fossil fuels for so many years. So overall, I think at this point I'm feeling pretty tired. I do kind of feel sometimes like I'm a chicken running around with my head cut off, that I just like going from place to place to place, and I don't. But I generally do feel invigorated being here and just talking to people working on this issue that I care so much about. And someone mentioned it's really nice to be in community with people who kind of know what you're talking about, and people who, like you, in their regular everyday settings, are the ones who talk about climate change all the time, and we are friends with it. While the negotiations are an important part of climate action, I think something I can take away is that there are many levels of engagement in climate action. So it can start from the local community level, working in solidarity with indigenous groups, protecting their land, working in municipalities to green your city. I see people who I admire working on policy. I've been to high levels in the background, quietly pushing along for incremental change, and then I also see people on the ground in their communities, fighting against oil or coal or industrial projects that are damaging to the climate. I still have not decided where best I should put my efforts, but I'm happy to be engaging with people who are working at all levels here at COP.
The BCCIC Youth Delegation represents youth from BC. Our goals at COP are to observe, report, and above all, to use this platform to advocate for bolder climate action on the part of Canada and its partners around the world. I stand with the youth who are not here today. I want to use my remaining time to share some messages with them. Throughout the fall, the BCCIC Youth Delegation reached out to youth around the province via in-person consultations and an online survey. 74% of survey respondents did not think Canada would be able to meet its Paris Agreement targets. 49% think BC will not be able to meet its provincial targets. There was also low support for major fossil fuel infrastructure projects, with 5.2% of respondents supporting the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion.
We think it's critically important that an actual just transition is a focal point to a clean future. That 120% means we can no longer accept the status quo of approving new flows of fossil fuels, and that's no questions asked. It's no secret that expanding the Trans Mountain project will cause Canada to further fail in its emission reduction targets. Instead, I urge the government and industry to focus on diversifying Canada's energy sector. As a nation, Canada has never met any of our climate targets. We claim we're the leader to other countries. So my question is, when will we actually start following through? Thank you.
We just finished a meeting. It was a joint meeting. We started with MP Joyce Murray, and then we ended up secondly with, oh my goodness, what's her name?
Patricia Fuller.
Patricia Fuller, who is the ambassador for Canada on climate change. Colton, do you want to talk a little bit about how the meetings went?
Yeah, I think the meetings were constructive. We talked a little bit about the importance of youth engagement, the importance of finding youth to attend the youth advocacy processes, and the need for a more transparent inclusion process in the way that we bring youth to these meetings. Particularly recognizing that this is mainly a non-representative delegation, I would say, necessarily, of the diverse BC youth. And we recognize that as a BC delegation. We want to make sure that we bring, future visible minorities and particularly Indigenous youth to these processes. And we largely can't do that without access to funding. And those communities and those youth should be prioritized first. So that's part of the ask. And also making sure that the youth who come are able to engage constructively, because right now having access to a party badge, which gets you into all the closed-door sessions, is the most transparent way to bring you.
And with that, I think it's also important that youth are engaged in a continuous way, so not just bringing youth to these conferences, but also consulting with youth on all kinds of new policies surrounding climate change in Canada, and continuing to be available, for example, to have meetings with us, and importantly to follow up on those meetings and say, like, what have we done since we talked about this last?
Certainly, yeah, and we did have those constructive conversations then, right, about concrete policy. I think that's something that's not often talked about enough, is that youth have ideas about policy. We don't need to just be talking about those to the youth consultation process.
I'm hearing a lot of, we're so happy and grateful to be able to talk to these high-level officials, but I think we should be they're so happy when people talk to us, because our voice honestly matters. And this meeting went well because they seem genuinely interested in hearing what we have to say, and that's always good to see as a young person.
What are some of the things we ask the government for in our meetings?
Our priorities were really around relaying the youth desire for increased ambition in Canada. What tools can be used in the Canadian framework to increase our the ambition of our targets and actually meet them. And we talked about carbon taxes, what prices we'd like to see on carbon, in terms of, you originally asked me what we had. High price. Yeah, up here.
I feel really bad, but Ben was still in the bus, and then we ran for the tram, and the door closed, and we're like, where's Ben? One more time. 1, 2, 3. No. Y'all are poor sports.